you bane on my life?
Hey guys, and welcome back to another Rogue Props video. I know we've been a little wonky with the upload schedule, but hopefully we're getting back to normal. As you can see, we are going to be making Captain Carter's shield from the What If series on Disney+. So without further ado, let's get on with it, shall we? So we're going to start the same way we do with every other prop that we work on this channel. We're going to have to sand everything. So, because everything has layer lines, so we're taking a rough 80 grit sandpaper. We're going to rough up those edges just to make it all much easier to get smooth, and specifically the edges so we can make sure everything glues together properly. Once we have all of our edges smooth, this file came with some handy little attachment things to make sure everything, all the pieces are aligned with each other. So we're going to glue those into their spots to make it much easier to attach the pieces together. But just because the file came with those attachments, it doesn't mean you want to solely rely on them, which is why we're putting on a little bit of glue on everything, so to make sure everything sticks together nice and evenly. And on top of those dividers, we're also going to once again take a really hot soldering iron and PLA weld the pieces together. This is going to provide the strongest attachment to your two pieces that you can possibly have. And of course, we're also going to outline the inside with a little bit of the E6000 glue. Once again, everything's relatively the same so far. So once we have all the pieces together, we're going to hit it with some filler primer. Now, upon reviewing this footage, I wish I had started with the Bondo glazing and spot putty. That would have made filling out those attachment sections a lot easier, but that's all for the future. So once again, we're applying the filler primer over the layer lines. That's going to fill in most of those layer lines, but that's once again not going to stop us from using Bondo later on. Once our filler primer has dried, we're going to take it outside on the moldy table, and we're going to give it a nice soap and water wash. This is going to get any grease off of that came off of your hands, and it will make it a lot easier for our Bondo to stick to the paint. And on top of that, since we're going to be using the abrasive side of our sponge, it's also going to take out some of those uneven surfaces, just to give us a better way of smoothing out everything. So once that's dried, now is the time that we're going to take our good old-fashioned Bondo glazing and spot putty, and we're going to fill in all the areas that were too big or got revealed by the sponge with our spot putty to make it even smoother. But once again, the Bondo glazing and spot putty takes about several hours to fully dry, but I like to let it go overnight just so we can be 100% sure that everything is dry all the way through. And you see I'm wearing a respirator and I'm wearing gloves. While there's no problem with getting this on your skin, you actually kind of don't want to get it on your skin because it's really hard to get off. And I kind of wish I had some higher quality gloves, because I just had to replace mine since my glove was tearing and I got it on my skin, but it doesn't matter. And the reason I'm wearing the respirator is because the Bondo glazing spot putty smells horrible. So if you're gonna use this, I highly recommend you either do it in a well-ventilated area in your house, or like I'm doing, just doing it outside, so it's not gonna stink up any room in your house by sinking into the walls or to the carpet or anything like that. Alright, now that our glazing and spot putty has dried, we are going to take our power sander, and we're going to equip a higher grit. I am starting at about a 120 grit. That will help knock down some areas while also getting the relative surface smooth. But then later on in our sanding process, we're going to switch to a higher grit, which I switched to about a 200, and then I went to a 320, and then ended at a 400 to get a nice smooth, very smooth surface since we're going to be using metallic paint. Metallic paint loves to show off imperfections, which I inevitably left some of them, but that's okay since it kind of goes with the whole motif of the shield. Alright, once we have our surface smooth, we're going to take a small tool, get any Bondo out of the lines around the edge of the shield, and we're going to apply our high gloss black base coat. Now the reason we're putting a gloss black base coat is because metallic paints really shine when they have a high gloss black base coat. At least the ones I'm using, sometimes they'll require no base coat, sometimes they'll require a different gloss, but a good rule of thumb is to read the can and you'll see if it'll require a base coat or not. And if you don't want to read the can for whatever reason, you could always test out your paints on on the back of a plastic spoon. That'll tell you if your paints react or not, and hopefully they don't. So here we are, we're starting off the actual painting. Now the same paint I used on the core and of course the shield overall, so I didn't record myself painting over the shield, just the core. So we started off with our Krylon metallic red, then our premium Krylon base chrome. I could have used a gloss white, but it wouldn't have matched the metallic look, so I went with a chrome, and I'm not regretting it. And then last but not least, we're using the Krylon metallic blue. Now, upon reviewing this footage, I should have had my hand further away from the actual prop. That would have made our lives a lot easier and have a lot less drip of the paint. But as you can see, everything is now perfectly painted. The metallic is looking very nice and reflective. I left my E6000 in the side, so I have to go get it. But that's essentially what we're doing. We're going to be gluing our core into the center of the shield with some E6000 and some regular old cyanoacrylic super glue. And just like that, guys, there you have it, Captain Carter's Vibranium Shield from the What If series. I am very happy with how it turned out, but later on I'm going to add this to my list of projects to redo. But that's a project for another day, and until that day, I'll see you later.